Welcome to Hard Hats and Horizons, the podcast where we dig deep into the construction and economic developments shaping the future of Dallas-Fort Worth. We bring you insights from industry leaders and visionaries who are driving growth in North Texas. From construction projects to industry trends and insights, we cover it all. So grab your hard hat and join us as we explore the people and projects shaping the skyline of DFW. Now, here is your host, Andrea Pender.
Tyler, thank you for coming to the Hard Hats and Horizons podcast. I'm really excited to have you on. You are, the partner at Birch Construction, and I'm really interested in hearing about this because you founded Birch in 2019. We have a few other highlights that we will definitely get to. Texo YCC Chair, Texo Young Constructor of the Year, Real Estate Council Volunteer of the Year. So you have a few little accolades here after your name. So kind of start us off and tell us how you got to Birch.
Okay. So Tyler Berns, partner at Birch Construction. Where do I start here? I went to school in Oklahoma, studied construction science. Thought I wanted to be an architect. The construction program sent out a flyer and said a lot of people change majors because they don't know we exist. And I said, well, that's exactly what I want to do, and kind of stayed the course ever since. I was fortunate enough to work for a phenomenal company, interned twice during school, and then worked for them for just over 10 years after school, Austin Commercial.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, just worked with phenomenal people, worked on really neat projects, worked a lot with Carrco, and really got a great level of experience across the board in how a commercial construction company runs, from pre-construction and operations to business development, staffing and strategy, and working with people that I still consider mentors of mine, to kind of carve my path in construction. You touched on Texo and Trek, and I place a lot of value in those types of organizations. And once again, Austin was instrumental in pushing me into those opportunities. But what I love about that is it's two organizations that do a ton for our industry here locally. And there's plenty of opportunities to build your network. If you want to, I would say, if you want to go find a happy hour industry wide, you could do that any night of the week, probably more than one.
Yes.
But what I love and what initially gravitated me towards Texo and Trek, the real estate council, was that there was always a service tie. So both organizations have a foundation, both are heavy into community impact, and that was something that echoed with me. So it's kind of a double hit where you get to grow and expand your personal and professional network, but you get to do it in a way that gives back to the community and helps others. And that's the things that you pointed out there are, I guess, products of that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Nice. Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like people join organizations for different reasons, and there's a lot of people who are like, no, I want that philanthropic arm of it, or I want that, how can I give back? And others are, nope, I just went there to get the education, I'm here for the programming. So that's interesting because I don't feel like I've heard very many people say that about Texo and Trek. We all know it a lot of people know that arm of it exists, but that's really interesting that that's kind of what you gravitated towards for those reasons. That's interesting.
I think it's phenomenal. And ultimately, so we started Birch Construction, me and my partner, Matt Smith. We started in October of 2019 with a mission to help people. And so that's tied to this. And really what we found is that Birch is a vehicle to in the obvious ways. We help people through building healthcare facilities, hospitals, surgery centers, through education facilities, higher education, private schools. But we also help people grow their careers. We help them build and expand their professional networks and skill sets.
And you do, because I see Birch people at everything. So everybody's out, and I know several of your people. Whereas other companies, I might just know one guy,
right,
or the guy at the top of the food chain. So I feel like you're always encouraging your people to get out and do things and get involved, which is really great.
Well, so one of the things that I was fortunate enough to do at Austin was they really promoted me in my desire to be involved in everything, from how we pursue work to how we priced it and how we built it, how we put teams together. And, for a really large contractor to be able to kind of wear an entrepreneurial hat was phenomenal. Now with Birch, we're just a smaller, more nimble version of that. And really, that's the underlying culture of what we do. It's everybody wears every hat. We call it an idea meritocracy,
Okay.
meaning that the best idea wins, and that means that you have to take ownership of everything that we do. And so that's where there's not these silos and walls built internally. It's everybody at Birch's responsibility to build relationships with trade partners. It's everybody at Birch's responsibility to build relationships with clients and design teams and our internal teams. And that's I love to hear you say that, because it's living proof that we do what we say.
Well, and it's an interesting thing because it's scary, right? You don't know what if you don't know what you don't know, it's like, you want me to go have a meeting with a client? It's lunch. You've eaten lunch every day your entire life. It's just lunch. We're just people. But sometimes having that lunch, it's like, oh, but that person might know more than I do. Or, well, great, then you can learn something from them. And so I've had a lot of lunches where I'm taking someone out for the very first time, and then they'll say, oh, well, that was just lunch. It was easy. We just had a good conversation and we built relationships. And I'm like, yes, that is exactly what it is. So, but yeah, getting out and doing those things. But you're giving your people permission. Go do, get to know people. And that's really great.
Permission, and it's very.
I was going to say permission / please do this. It's on your to-do list.
Well, it's one of those things where, I think if you were to put your to-do list and you started knocking them off, you cherry picked each one. We always start with the easy ones. And the ones that are left are the ones that are either harder, or you don't know how you're going to start, or what the path is. And I think that's what you're describing is it's this big, hairy unknown. Like you build these experiences or, interactions up in your head as these big, intimidating things. But you said it. I would say everybody you meet knows something you don't. Try to learn from them.
Yep.
And if you go into a meeting or a relationship saying, I need to be the smartest person in this relationship, it is intimidating. You always feel like you have to perform. And I feel like every time I take a step back and realize that the people around us that we're empowering to put in place, or the people that we're working with, know a lot more than I do about something.
Which is hopefully why you're hiring them.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Then I grow exponentially, and the company grows exponentially.
Right.
But ultimately, you're right. If you break it down to a personal level, most people have a family. They're probably sitting on the soccer sideline. They enjoy fishing, whatever it is, and work is another thing.
Right.
And we break down that barrier of, wow, we've got to be buttoned up and we've got to have all the answers. You learn that it's just a person across the table.
It's just a person. Right. Yeah.
It's not the same way you do every day.
Yeah. I do a lot of like coffee meetings with clients because it's easy, and maybe it's a little quicker than a lunch meeting. And I took one of my drywall guys to a coffee meeting, and he was like, Andrea, I've never done this before. And I was like, it's just like lunch. He's like, yeah, but I'm not really a coffee, and I'm like, well, just order what he ordered or get a water or something. And then afterwards he goes, I really like that a lot more than lunch, because you weren't worried about, hey, I need a refill, or, oh, they forgot to give me a fork or something like that. And so I know he has scheduled several coffee meetings now. And I'm like, there's all sorts of things you can do. It doesn't just have to be happy hour or coffee or lunch. You can come up with all sorts of things. So, yeah. Okay, so you left your big firm and started Birch. What was that kind of transition like for you?
Well, so there was a middle step in there. I worked for a small company as their vice president of pre-construction and new business for just under 2 years. And that's really where I learned differences between the mega company and a small business. And so when we left there, we started Birch as a purpose-driven company. And we took things that we learned from Matt and I. We took things that we learned from our experiences with working in the bigger shops, and then our experience working in a smaller shop, and said, what do we be? And that's where we said we're going to be a purpose-driven company first. We help people, and we decided that we wanted to really fill a niche and hire people that were along for the ride to fill that niche. And this is where we live today.
How did you meet your business partner?
So at the small firm after Austin, they hired two of us, one to run business and pre-construction, one to run operations, and they made a great match, and
the rest was history.
We went. That's
nice.
Right.
Nice.
Do you need reliable, high-quality service for your commercial project? Choose Carrco, the most trusted contractor in commercial painting, drywall, and floor coatings in DFW. With over 30 years of experience, Carrco delivers top-tier craftsmanship across Texas. From expert painting and seamless drywall and durable floor coatings, we handle it all, on time and on budget. Transform your space with the professionals at Carrco. Visit carcopainting.com today. Carrco, where quality meets reliability.
What were some of your key moments that you've had in your career? And I do want to mention you started the company in 2019, so there's probably some things that right off the bat.
Smartest guys in the room, everything was up and to the right. What could go wrong? We started our first project January of 2020. And we thought, this is great. We had a backlog, and then 2 months into that project, COVID happened. Our backlog went to zero, and we had one project that was going to burn off in just a few months. And what we learned is, I think this is the key to anything in life, but certainly, in starting your own business. But I was telling my kids this weekend in the backyard. It really is true. But if you look at a problem or a challenge as this insurmountable, task, it's really easy to kind of cower down and retreat. But what we did is we looked at it one step at a time. All right, we've got to get through today, and then we got to get through next week, and then we got to get through the week after that. And if you just keep making smart decisions and taking the next step, you'll get through anything. And I think ultimately that's where a lot of people fail. If whether it's a business or whether it's a problem on a project, it's this huge insurmountable thing. You think, how can I do this? And if you go into it with that attitude,
you're never going to do it.
That's
exactly. But if you break it down,
that's it. And so that's something that Matt and I preach, is just take one step at a time.
Nice.
Make the next right decision.
Yeah, because there are some big things that are scary. How are you going to do it? And you're like, well, I can't do it I have to do this by tomorrow. But if you break it down and this is my year-long goal, then you're going to make it happen.
I had a professor in college. I've been a terrible procrastinator my entire life, but he said to me, "Just start. If you have a paper due and you've got a month to do it, that's fine. Open Microsoft Word, type the title, put your name, just put something, and start. And it's way easier beyond that as long as you just started. So take that first step." Yeah. You can pivot, you can change, but take the first step.
I have a friend of mine that's a coach, and she's like, just get to the gym. Just take the time, drive to the gym, walk in. Maybe you just refill your water bottle, and then you have permission to leave. But she's like, you're probably going to refill your water bottle and then do your workout. So that's right. Step one. Just get there. Take the first step. So I kind of made you answer that question, but I'm going to ask it again. Were there any key moments or challenges that you've had in your career or life that was not 2020 related?
It was not 2020 related. Positive changes,
Challenges.
Challenges.
Or it could be that, and that was probably a pretty big one that you had.
No, I tell this story a lot. Early on in my career, I thought, I don't know that construction with a general contractor is my ultimate path. And what I thought I wanted to do was to go be a developer. And I called a family friend who was he was chairman of Trek at the time, and very well connected. He was a private equity guy funding development projects, and I took him to coffee at Starbucks in Highland Park Village. I remember exactly where we sat, and I had this big plan where I was gonna tell him my plan and wait for the feedback and the connections that he was going to give me. I told him, I believe I want to be a developer. And he looked at me and said, that's the dumbest thing you could say. I said, oh, okay. And he was right. I think I was 3 to 5 years out of school. He said, what are you going to do? You're going to go be some developer's construction guy? He said, you're not even Austin Commercial's construction guy. You wouldn't add any value. And long story short, his advice to me was, why don't you go learn everything you can about the business? He goes, and maybe 5-10 years from now, you have learned enough to where you can go be someone's construction guy. Or maybe you learn enough about the business that you learn that you really do love it. And then that is your path. And now you know which path I went. But it was a trying time for me because I felt like I was aimless, like I was going down the wrong path and I was putting this effort into the wrong vision, if you will. And what he taught me was, he used an analogy. He said, have you ever been in a cornfield? Have you ever been in a cornfield?
Oh, I grew up in Indiana.
So he said, what you've told me is that you have identified your field, you have, planted your seed, you've cultivated this corn crop, and you've grown it to about, knee high, and you've just come to me and said, it's time to harvest.
Oh.
He said, you will yield nothing. He said, you've got to continue to cultivate the crop, and then you will have a better yield. And it was a great analogy for me then, and I think it continues to be an analogy that, I had put all this time into school. I had put all this time into internships. I had worked in pre-construction. I had worked some in operations. And I hadn't yet grown my personal crop to anything that would be yielding fruit. And really, if I think back to my 20s, I was always frustrated at the pace at which it felt like your career in construction grew. And you'd look to your left, and you look to your right at your peers outside of the industry, and maybe they were a banker, maybe they were an attorney, and they'd work 50-hour weeks, and all of a sudden they're 26 years old, and they're vice president of this or director of that, and you're a project engineer. And you're thinking, golly, I'm working 60-hour weeks consistently, and seemingly getting lapped by my friends, peers. Construction experience happens at the pace at which construction moves. So if you're on a 2-year-long project, you learn foundations one time.
Right.
And if there were problems on that project in the foundations, then you learned that problem for foundations. If there weren't, you didn't learn problems in foundations. And a mentor of mine at Austin, not directly related to that frustration, or maybe it was, reminded me that, the saying that your 20s are for learning, your 30s are for earning. More recently, it was told to me by a coach, your 20s are for learning, your 30s are for perfecting your craft, and your 40s are for learning or for earning.
Oh, nice.
And the takeaway to me there is, be patient, be a sponge, say yes to as many opportunities as possible, grow that crop, and grow it as high and as bountiful as you can before you look to harvest. I turned 40 last month, so now I'm ready.
Okay, now you hit the mark. It's time to go.
But I think we can become impatient, and you see people, certainly recently, the way that the job markets have been, and they'll jump to this opportunity, that opportunity, that opportunity. And what I implore to people when we are visiting college campuses or we're talking to young people is, look for an opportunity where you can be surrounded by people that want you to win. Success is easier when others want you to win. And what that looked like for me at Austin was I was surrounded by people that wanted me to win. I was surrounded by mentors and friends. I was surrounded by people that were looking to give me opportunity. And I spent my 20s and early 30s in a firm that really promoted my growth.
That's awesome.
And gave me the opportunity to seek additional opportunities outside the organization, inside the organization. I've helped build soft skills by holding leadership positions in Texas YCC through the Real Estate Council's Young Guns and their foundation. Ran the golf tournament at Austin for a number of years, and ran a lot of different internal endeavors, and it created a well-roundedness in me where I got to build leadership skills. I got to build soft skills. I got to see how projects got put together, and it set me up for a place to where I could really thrive later in my career.
What do you think sets people apart? How you're like, I'll do it. I want to learn. Sign me up. I want to do this, new program or new educational thing. What do you think is the difference between the people who are the sign me up for it and the people that just sit at their cubicle, heads down. They don't want to do anything.
I think there's a few differentiators there. I mean, there's, the people, and I probably relate to this one, that when there's an opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
you raise your hand,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just it. And we can all identify those people. Then you have the people that are thinking they'd say yes, but they're probably a little intimidated. And then if someone else says yes first, they say, okay, they've got it. And then there's the people that just habitually say no, like, no, that isn't my job.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that there's challenges with all three of those. You are probably very similar to me in that I imagine you relate more to the first
For
example
sure.
there. And you can spread yourself inch deep.
Yep.
Spread yourself too thin, and you do a lot of things, but maybe not as many well. And so you've really got to learn to protect the no.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
To say no, I'm going to reserve my power for. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
The people that might be nervous, I think that it's the flywheel effect. It's the first time you say yes, that flywheel starts spinning.
Uh-huh.
And every time you say yes to another opportunity, you start to realize this isn't as intimidating as I thought. I am capable of doing this, and that flywheel starts to move faster. The people who think that this isn't my job, I think, are destined to be to find out that they have a lower ceiling than their peers. Mm-hmm. Case in point, you mentioned that you see a lot of my folks around the industry involved in different things. Winning work at Birch Construction is not the responsibility of a singular business development person. We don't have a business development person. It's the collective job of our pre-construction department, of our operations team, even of our accounting team who talks with our clients day in and day out.
I agree with that 100%. Like, I might have the title, but it takes everybody to win work.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
We've all probably been in places where, you set up a meeting, whether lunch, happy hour, something like that. Javier Huerta, the man, myth, the legend, where you set up a meeting and, you might hear from members of the team that, or not hear from them, that they don't show up.
Mm-hmm.
That isn't my job.
Uh-huh.
That's a really career limiting decision. You're not building the relationships externally. You're not building the relationships internally. And to be a leader in this industry, you have to learn how to not just do, but manage. And managing means relationships upstream and downstream.
Oh, I love that. I like that a lot. That's really good. I like that. Yeah, it's interesting when you hit that 40 mark, just whenever, and you notice, man, there's a lot of people who want to say yes, and then there's a handful that don't want to say yes, and you're like, but you need to. It's going to help you grow, but it's just not how they're wired. And so you can do a lot, but at a certain point, they have to help as well.
On that note, I've got a great friend of mine, Evan Beatty, who's now CEO of Good Fulton Farrell Architects.
Mm-hmm.
And when the founders of the company were transitioning out of the company, as Evan and others were being promoted, and Evan told me, I'd walk down the hall, and he goes, you can kind of tell, you see someone and they see you coming out of the corner of their eye, and as you walk past, they stop you. Hey, and he goes, I knew every time what the conversation was going to be. Hey, I know that there's a lot of change coming. I've been XYZ, this associate architect or this project manager for this many years, and I really think I ought to have a shot at becoming a principal. Mm-hmm. And he said very plainly to me, he goes, there are people in our firm who are phenomenal managers, mm-hmm. But that doesn't make them a principal. Mm-hmm. And he said that the difference to me between someone who is a phenomenal manager and someone who is a principal is someone who has direct impact to the company's top line. Mm-hmm. That means bringing in work. Mm-hmm. Everybody else has direct or indirect impact to the bottom line. Once the work is in, we execute it, it hits the bottom line. And that's critical.
We have to have it all.
But you can't have the bottom line unless you have the top line.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so if your desire is to be principal level in a firm, you have to understand that it's your job as much as anybody else's, whether it's marketing or business development or others, that you have to help drive top line. Mm-hmm. And the people who have the best opportunity to do that frankly, are the ones who don't think generally that it's them.
Uh-huh.
It's me, it's my superintendents in the field
Yes.
who are on site all day, every day,
Yes.
who make clients feel welcome when they come on site, who have a hard hat and vest ready for the team on their weekly OAC should they decide to attend. It's the ones who seek out client relationships, subcontractor relationships, and look to build up our opportunities to generate top line revenue.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it takes all of us. It takes all of us. Okay, so you mentioned your mentor that you met with. How did you meet this guy? And have you had other mentors? Do you have a mentor program at your office? Talk to me a little bit about mentorship and how it's been a part of your life.
So I've got this written on a sticky. If you ever see my office, it is a wall of fame of anytime someone says something to me that resonates with me, or I read something, I write it on a sticky note, I give credit, I stick it on the wall.
I love it. Okay.
And one of the latest ones that I have is it's easier to win. Success is easier when others want you to win.
Oh.
And anybody who finds themselves in any sort of leadership position or finds success somewhere, I find it hard pressed to believe that someone or someone's didn't have a large influence in getting them there, either directly in that position or indirectly up until that point. And I am certainly no exception. At Austin, I had a phenomenal group of mentors. I worked very closely with Kent McNorton for a number of years, who's executive vice president over there. I worked with a guy named Brad Brown, who was president, hired me out of college in 2005. I had a formal mentor relationship with the CEO of the firm, David Walls. And then a myriad different relationships. Steve Fortmeyer was a senior project manager that I worked for at Museum Tower, who, if you looked at the coaching tree underneath him, it was amazing to see how fast people got promoted. He gave people opportunities to learn what was on the plate of the person above them. Brian Martinelli was a project manager. I could keep going, but all these people had huge influences in educating me, in expanding my horizon, my perspectives. And that was hugely influential in my development. The gentleman I talked about, this was a guy who lived down the street from my parents' growing up.
Okay.
And you never know. I made a relationship with him just because I saw him around the neighborhood.
He's a neighbor.
That's
Yeah.
right. And you never know where these relationships are going to start. And the example I always like to give is human nature can sense us when a sale is coming.
For sure.
You ever get the phone call from AT&T asking how your internet's doing?
You know it's coming.
You know it's coming. And every fiber of your being says, how can I get off this call? How can I get away from this? Even if you need new internet.
Right. I don't want to do this right now.
And relationships are no different. And mentor relationships are certainly no different. If you build a genuine relationship thinking, how can I either learn something from this person or how can I serve this person? Those are the relationships that will stand the test. And I can name you, dozens, if not hundreds of examples. Melanie at Texo, she's been a peer as much as she has been a mentor. And I can keep going. The trick is in mentorship, and I think this is where most people get it wrong. Sometimes the formality of a mentor program is what kills it. Okay. First, it's dating. It has to be a match. You have to have some sort of back and forth. You have to have a natural rapport. But usually the formalness of a mentor program implies that the mentee is there to learn. Right. Give it to me. Let's go. And it's the opposite. The mentee has to actively seek mentorship. And I think like dating, you give it a shot, you try. If it's not a match, you move on. But the mentor-mentee relationships that I've had, either when I'm the mentee, you have to schedule the meeting. You have to meet them on their turf, come sit at their office, meet at the coffee shop at their kid's school, whatever it is, and you have to come prepared with an agenda. Yes, that's key. It's key. The best example I have is my youngest sister had a new physician. Okay. She was going in for her annual checkup, and she told me about this afterwards, and she said, my doctor said you have to come prepared to talk about 3 things. Well, she was prepared to go get height, weight, blood checked, right?
Sure. Just the annual.
That's it. And I think she said, I feel tired in the mornings. So she had a sleep study done, and what happened after that literally changed her life.
Oh, wow.
But if you come prepared to talk about something, not just, okay, doctor, you're the expert, tell me what I need to know about my health. No, here's what I'm experiencing. The doctor goes, oh, you know what? I've got a guy you should talk to. And the mentor-mentee relationship is no different.
Yep. Yep.
You have to say, here's what I'm looking at personally. This is a struggle I'm having in my relationship with my husband or my wife. Here's what I'm having a struggle with my direct manager or a direct report, or here are my goals. Here's my 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10-year goal, whatever it is. How can I get there? And if you come, the more thoughtful questions that you come with, the more you'll get from it. And usually it will spark conversations that now all of a sudden you do have rapport, and it's not this, well, what do we talk about today?
Yeah. What are you going to teach me?
Yeah.
Recently, a young lady reached out to ask if I would mentor her, and I said, I need you to do all of those things. Because I was like, where do I even start? I mean, I'm happy to teach you an hour's worth of stuff, but I need to know where we're at first, so then I can fill in those gaps for you. So yeah, no, anytime I mentor someone, I'm like, I need a list, so you come prepared, so we have talking points.
Sure.
So yeah,
it's critical.
It is. And I think, it sounds like mentorship's been a big part of your life. It's a big part of my life. So yeah, I wish it was a big part of everyone's life. So we can just keep preaching that everyone needs to find a mentor.
Well, the other thing that I always say is that if you look around your organization and you don't have a champion, you can't identify, I am Andrea Pender's champion. This is someone who really wants me to win. They're invested in my success.
Yes.
You need to find one. And if you can't find one, that's when you start looking at a different organization.
Yes.
But you have to have a champion. And that champion is as much of a mentor relationship as anybody.
For sure.
It doesn't have to be, but it's critical. If you can't look around and find someone who wants you to win, success will be hard.
Oh, for sure. I like that. I like that a lot. Okay, kind of moving on to industry things. What are some things you're seeing in the industry right now, or any sort of specific challenges that you guys are going through right now, and how you're solving them?
Things I'm seeing in the industry right now. Well, there's always uncertainty of the political and trade climates. What is the economy doing? I think that we're in such a great place. Like I just think to be in commercial construction in North Texas in 2025, like you couldn't have picked a better lottery number. Like this is it.
I agree.
And for every struggle and challenge we face, I mean, a different industry in North Texas would be different, but certainly our industry anywhere else in the country, you're facing different challenges. I mean, our biggest challenge right now is a similar one that it's always been, and you guys probably understand it, but it's labor and it's skilled labor and staffing. And there's a number of really smart people, really smart organizations that are working towards how do we bring smart people into construction? How do we bring the people with the right character and work ethic into construction? But it's one of those things, like we talked about, it will take everybody. It takes conversations at your kids' schools. It takes conversations, in neighborhood organizations. Like, it's how do we get the right people in? How do we get them in the right organizations such that they can be trained and thrive in our industry?
I love this industry, and it's so interesting because so many people just think that the buildings just pop out of the ground. Whoop, there's a building, and they don't know that there's a million people that it took to make it happen. They just, I've been driving by and I saw the construction and now it's open, and I'm like, it took 3 years, but in your head it only took a month. And so anytime I see people who maybe left the industry to start a family or something, I'm like, what's your background? Can you do accounting? Can you do marketing? I'm like, come join our market, join our industry, because I love it. And I feel like there's a place for everyone, whether or not they went to school for construction management or not. So I love that your headshot that you provided for me has your whole family on here. So you have little kids.
Yeah.
So
Don't tell them that. They're big.
They're big
Yeah.
kids. So if tomorrow they were going to college, are they going to go to college? Are they going to go to trade school? Like, what do we think we're going to do?
Well, we've brainwashed them, and probably need to change this. But both my wife and I went to OU, and they are dead set that Oklahoma is the best place in the world, and they're right.
I mean, I was brainwashed before I was born as well to go to school. I went to Purdue, so I'm like, there's other colleges. What?
There you go.
So I can appreciate that.
You know, it's one of those things, though. You want your kids to be successful in whatever they want to do, and as long as there's a path, we want to support them in that path.
Yeah.
You know, we've learned that with our own hobbies. You know, we try not to push our kids into the things that we love, although it's nice when they like them as well. But I think school's the same way, and you know, I think globally we're starting to understand that the mantra of every kid should go to college probably put a lot of people in a bad position. And so if college is the right answer for my kids, then great, college is the right answer. But I know a lot of people who have been very successful finding a career path, which is really the ultimate goal. Finding a career that you're passionate about and a path that can lead to success. And if that's through the trades, there's phenomenal avenues for that, especially here in North Texas.
Yeah, I always think it's interesting because I mean, I loved every second at Purdue. It sounds like you guys loved every second.
I excelled at college, not at class, but at college. That's right.
And I do think it's a good learning experience. You're away from home, all of that type of thing. But then I think, man, but we need plumbers, we need welders, like we need all of these things. And so I'm just really curious. I wish we all wish we had a crystal ball. Like, where are we going to be in 20 years? Is everyone still getting that 4-year college degree? Do we have people rocking and rolling through trade school? Is it more is it balanced?
Right.
So I think it'll be interesting just to see where we're at in a few years, especially from people our age who you will go to college. That's kind of the
That's
era.
right.
So I'm curious what the outcome over the next 10, 20 years will be. Yeah.
You're not wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm going to get on soapbox, but college admissions are getting tighter and tighter. Endowments are growing larger and larger.
Okay.
And it just creates a more competitive environment. I mean, there's a whole conversation on higher education reform, but that's a different podcast.
So I really love cars and I would love to learn how to work on cars. And so I had this funny dream that I was at Porsche mechanic school, which just makes me laugh. And so what did I do? I woke up and I'm like, if I did want to get this knowledge, like, where would I go? And so Will looks at me and he's like, are you really researching like trade schools right now? And I said, yeah, I am. Because I want to know how much they cost and how long does it take? And could I do one class? Are they in the evenings?
Right.
What can I do? I didn't really get that far with my research, but I did start the process of it. So, I mean, dreams may come true. I'm just kidding, but I would love to know how to do some of those things.
Yeah.
You know, you just take your car, drop it off, but I want to get my hands dirty. But that wasn't an option, really. You know, because you were brainwashed early to go to college.
That's right.
Which I loved. Do you have any sort of actionable advice for any of our listeners that may be kind of in the similar field as you?
I think this is kind of keeping with the theme of everything we've talked about, but I'm a snow skier.
Okay.
As a Dallas native, that makes a world of sense. But there's the guy who pioneered ski films, is a guy named Warren Miller, and he has 3 things they said at the end of every movie that he did, and it started in the 50s. And they're still going today. But the last one was, if you don't do it this year, you'll be 1 year older when you do. And I think that applies to everything. So if you want to go get a master's degree,
do it.
Start the first step by looking online. If you want to go to Porsche mechanic school, start by looking online, or go buy an old Porsche and start tinkering with it, right? But I get people that ask me all the time, well, I want to start my own business. How should I do it? Start. The key is to start.
Right.
If you don't do it this year, you'll be 1 year older when you do, and it only gets harder.
I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Does your snow skiing translate at all to water skiing?
I bought like any good contractor, I have put money into a depreciating asset. And so when I first I've always driven old cars, not like classic cars, just old beaters, because the only thing I love more than new cars is not having a car payment. So when I was graduated college, I was making $42,000 a year. I was just loaded, right? And I decided,
thought we were.
and I was driving an old car that I had bought for $5,000 cash 6 years prior. And so I did what any person would do, and I bought a boat. And so in 2008, we bought an old Malibu wake center, and
Nice.
that's what we do in the weekends in the summer
Nice.
with our kids.
Where do you keep your boat at?
We're at Lake Louisville.
Okay, so we just got a boat last year. We keep it out at Lake Grapevine.
There you go.
And so we too have been talking about getting boats for the entire time we've been married. And so, funny story, Will calls on Monday. I'm like in my office and he's like, hey, so we've always talked about getting a boat. Like, is that something like we really kind of want to get into a little bit more? And I'm like, yeah, like let's do it.
You don't do it this year.
So
It'll
this
be
is what it says. Good, because it's being delivered on Friday.
Glad you answered that way. That's great.
Yeah, so we went out pretty much every weekend that we possibly could just since the fall. So
Well, for us, it's forced family time.
That's nice.
The four of us are on a boat in a confined area, and the kids love it. So yeah, does it? I mean, it kind of translates the snow to the water, but the snow is something our family does together as well, and so it's time outdoors together, and that's what my wife and I love doing, and luckily the kids have
nice.
picked that up as well.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's really great. Let's see. Okay, so we kind of moved on to hobbies here. You also mentioned Camp Firewalker in your notes. So talk to us about this.
Oh, this is one of my favorite things. We are in our 11th year, but 11 years ago, we founded an organization called Camp Firewalker. It's campfirewalker.org. And we exist to partner with other nonprofits to serve youth in low income and underserved neighborhoods to give them outdoor adventure experiences. So to introduce them to the outdoors, to new experiences, to new challenges through a mentor program. So our campouts, we provide kind of a 1-to-1 minimum ratio of volunteer to camper, which allows more hands-on experience, but also more opportunities for chance interactions and conversations. We do 4 very large activities a year in the shoulder seasons when you can be outdoors in Texas. So we've started to break them up in age groups. So for the younger kids, we have built out a camp at a ranch an hour south of town. We have a lake stocked with bass and perch. We have canoes and kayaks, BB guns and bow and arrows. There's everything you could think of in the outdoors as we've built over 11 years. And it's largely volunteered by folks in our industry.
Nice.
It kind of shifted from personal friends to professional friends, and that network's grown. We do that in the spring and the fall, and then for the older kids, middle school and into high school, we do a backpacking trip, 3-day backpacking trip in Arkansas.
That's cool.
And then throughout the year, every month, so that we can maintain that relationship, we do things like we'll go pick up trash and fish at White Rock's a favorite thing. In the winter when it's cold or in the summer when it's too hot, we'll go rock climbing indoors. But
that's cool.
We find ways to get kids outdoors and provide a complementary level of activities for our nonprofit partners.
Huh. That's really interesting. Man, I mean, because you spent a lot of time outside, it sounds like, growing up as a kid, and so did I. And when kids don't get that experience, I'm like, gosh, well, what'd you do all day? You know, like play video games and okay, that's interesting. We'll have to talk more about that later. That sounds really interesting. And it's boys and girls. And how old are the kids?
We haven't figured out girls yet. It's just young boys. But and the ages range from about 8 to 15 is really nice. There's some exceptions on both sides, but that's really what our terms been.
Okay, I like that.
But I'll tell you one of the neatest stories, and this is where I said I think we're onto something, was one of the very first campouts that we did. I was in a canoe with a young man. We were fishing, and we were he's a quiet kid. He ended up camping with us for years, and we were fishing. And he said, "Hey, Tyler." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Do you and your friends do this all the time?" I said, yeah, and I guess we do. He's just kind of quiet. We were fishing, and he said, Tyler, how do you guys get to do this all the time? And that's when the light bulb went off to me, and that's when we got to tell the story. Well, my friends and I graduated high school. We all went to college. Those guys over there do the X, Y, and Z. I work in commercial construction, and it affords us an income such that we can spend our weekends doing these kind of things. And you saw this aha moment for him. And then the conversations after that got much deeper and how do I create a path for myself? You could tell he hadn't had that conversation before. This is a kid in middle school. So it creates hundreds, if not thousands, of those moments where sometimes the volunteer, the mentor, realizes that it's happening. Sometimes we don't.
Right.
But it creates the most.
Oh, that's really good. And he'll maybe end up working for us one day.
You never know.
Yeah. Oh, that's really nice. Let's see. I feel like you've kind of talked on a little bit, but tell us a little bit more about your family, because how old are these kids up here? How old are?
So I've got Emma Kate, who is in second grade.
Okay.
And Carter, who is in kindergarten. So they're 6 and 8 years old.
Okay.
Avid soccer players. I coach both their teams. They're a lot of fun. We do a lot together as a family. They get along well.
And how long have you guys been married?
We are married 11 years this year.
Nice. Did you guys meet in college?
We both went to OU.
Okay.
Met after school.
After college.
Which was probably better for me.
Lucked out for everybody.
That's right. It worked out well.
That's funny. Let's see. Who or what inspires you the most?
Who or what inspires me the most? One of the most rewarding things working at Birch is when you see our young folks and leaders win. And the best meetings for me are where I sit back, and if you can believe this, I say nothing in the corner, and I watch them execute the strategy that we've prepared, the training that they've received over the course of years. And when you see it land, you see a win, you can't help but smile, because that success is what we're all looking for that.
Mhm.
That's so inspirational to me. It makes me want to get up and do it again. And how do we continue to hire these young folks and train and promote them such that they can all have these wins and build this career?
Yeah. It's nice when you see that those things that you've worked so hard on, you're like, it's working. It's
great.
Working. Let's keep doing this. And it's nice to be able to see that. And they might not see it the same way you do in the moment, but it's like, gosh, they get it. And now they're just going to do it again.
That's
and
right.
even better this time.
That's right.
That's cool. Okay, we have a little quick fire round of questions, which I need to remind myself. Quick fire means don't talk for 30 minutes about it. What is the last book that you read?
I'm wrapping up the Elon Musk biography by Walter Isaacson.
I've heard very good things about.
It's fascinating.
And anything that Walter Isaacson has written.
He's so good.
So you're not the first one that's told me about this. What is your favorite quote?
This changes all the time, but I've got one that has stayed on my computer screen for probably 15 years now.
Okay.
It's what you don't change, you choose. What you don't change, you choose.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a really good one. What is a skill you would like to learn?
Oh gosh.
Are you going to join me at Portrait Mechanic School?
I'm an outdoors guy. I just got back from a surfing trip.
Oh,
that's always been something I've wanted to learn. And I finally, after a handful of times going, I can paddle into any wave I see now. And I want to continue getting better at that. There's not much better than sitting on a surfboard in the middle of the ocean.
That's cool.
Just kind of the calming. So I'm learning that.
Okay. I just had a friend go on a yoga surfing retreat, and she said it was really fun and interesting.
I would recommend it to anybody.
Yeah. Okay. It wasn't scary, getting past those. And I'm a huge swimmer, so I love to swim, but those
be great.
Sound scary to me.
You'll swallow some salt water in the process, but
that's cool. Did your wife do this with you?
No, this was a bunch of dads from our kids' elementary school. This was for the kids.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. What is your favorite, or what is the favorite city that you have visited?
My wife and I just got back from Japan. And if you haven't ever been to Japan, I know that's not a city.
Where else did you go in
But
Japan?
we went to Tokyo. We went to a city in Nagano, and then we went to Kyoto.
Okay.
And that was just one of the neatest trips we've ever been on. It was a skiing trip,
Oh, that makes it even more interesting.
which was phenomenal.
Oh,
But if you haven't been to Japan, go to Japan. The food was phenomenal. The culture is unique and exceptional. I couldn't say enough good things about it.
we went to Japan right before COVID, and it was
Okay.
so interesting. I mean,
Yeah.
it was so clean. I think I read something, and it was like there's like 6.8 vending machines per person or something. I mean, there's vending machines.
That's right.
Yeah, it was never on my list of places to go, and we ended up going there, and it was, I mean, just it was a completely different world. So it was just really interesting to see
Yeah.
how everything works over there
Oh,
compared
yeah.
to here. Oh, that's interesting. What is the favorite construction project that you've been a part of?
You know, the project that I spent the most time on was 2.5 years at Museum Tower.
Ah, okay.
And that was really impactful in building my career and my understanding of how construction works. But you know, fast forward to Birch, we've really worked on some projects that I think are impactful in our community.
Mm.
A lot of healthcare and education projects that it. Museum Tower is wonderful. It literally changed the Dallas skyline. That's neat. I love pointing out to my kids and say I was part of the team that built that. But when you work on a community level project, like we just redid the emergency department at Texas Health Resources HEB Hospital just in time for cold and flu season. And they went from what they were calling Code Black, where they had people on stretchers in the hallway, to an expanded capacity to where they could serve people in dire need. Those type projects are really impactful to me when you can come see that you had a tangible impact on the community that we live in.
I like those too. People can see and touch and feel and visit those. It's not just the one you point at.
They're fun too.
Yeah,
They're really fun too.
Yes, for sure. Do you have a piece of advice for someone just starting out in the industry? I feel like we've given a lot of little
It's
nuggets.
the same answer we've given. Go find a mentor.
Yeah.
Identify a champion. Make sure that you're part of a team that is invested in your success.
I like that. Is there anything else that we want to talk about? I know we've covered quite a bit.
Yeah, this has been fun.
So I will list your LinkedIn for the Birch website. I'll add Campfire Walker to the show notes. Is there anything else that you want me to include? Can anybody find you anywhere else that you're?
No, I'm not on social media otherwise.
Okay, well then we'll make sure to add all of that to the show notes. And I really appreciate you coming on. This was really good. It was interesting.